Luana Stoltenberg, same name as the Secretary General. You know who I'm talking about, right? It's a great name and a great woman. Thank you very much. State Senators Sherilyn Westrick. Sherilyn, thank you. Thank you. Lynn Evans. Thank you very much. Great job. Been here right from the beginning, too. And Brad Zahn. You know, he endorsed me. Brad endorsed me before I ran. He said, there's a guy in New York that we have to get to run. Brad was the first endorsement, I believe, in the country, wherever you are. And your mother-in-law is here, much more importantly. Where's your mother-in-law? Stand up, mother-in-law. He loves his mother-in-law. Thank you very much. His wife and mother-in-law. But he didn't even mention the wife. He said, my mother-in-law is coming today. That's pretty good, right? Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks for everything, Brad. Former Acting Attorney General of the United States, Matt Whitaker, a fantastic person. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. And today I'm truly honored to receive the endorsement of Iowa Attorney General Brenna Byrd, one of the most popular and successful politicians in the state. She's a fantastic woman, respected all over the country, actually. And I want to thank her very much. Congratulations to the next governor of Louisiana also. Jeff Landry just won over the weekend. And he got a majority, so he's now going to be the next governor of Louisiana. He was an attorney general and did a fantastic job. I endorsed him, and he became a rocket ship like everyone else. And he went up and he won the race very convincingly and got the majority, and he won. So we're very proud of him. He's a great gentleman. Making America great again must begin with making America strong and making America safe again. We have to make it safe. It's not safe. Our country is in such trouble. Under my leadership, the world's thugs and villains and killers and savages were in retreat and running scared. They were running scared. All because you had a president who stood up for America. We took a lot of heat for doing it, too, remember? We took a lot of heat, but we stood up to everybody, and we stood up for Israel, and we stood up for Judeo-Christian civilization and values. Hard to believe you take heat for that, right? Used to be that was a wonderful thing. Today you take heat. We'll turn that around. Just like I said years ago, we're going to turn Christmas around. Remember, the department stores they refused to use the word Christmas. They wouldn't say Merry Christmas. They'd say Happy New Year. They'd have red, they'd have everything perfect. I said, where's Christmas? And by the time we finished, they all had Christmas up there. But in 4 short years, I obliterated the ISIS territorial caliphate. They said it couldn't be done. I terminated its founder and leader, al-Baghdadi. They were after him for 14 years. We got him. We got him. I annihilated the senior ranks of al-Qaeda, never to be heard from again. I eliminated Iran's terrorist mastermind, Qasem Soleimani, who was killing our soldiers by the thousands and thousands. He's the father of the roadside bomb. He loved the roadside bomb. I withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, crushed the murderous Iranian regime with sanctions, and starved Hamas. And we took Hamas and Hezbollah and all of the rest. We took them to task like nobody else has ever done. And they were behaving for 4 years. You didn't see any problems anywhere, including here. I never talked about it when it was happening. I'd be in 3 years, 3.5 years. I said, I don't want to talk about it. But as soon as I got out, I said, nothing happened for 4 years. We didn't have any problems. We got out of the wars. We won the wars. We defeated ISIS. We won all the wars and got out. We brought our great troops back home. I choked off the money to corrupt Palestinian organizations and stood with Israel like no president in history, recognizing the eternal capital, opening up the American embassy in Jerusalem, and recognizing Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. That was a big deal. And with the historic Abraham Accords, we had peace in the Middle East. Can you believe that? We had peace until this character came along. He didn't know what he was doing. His name was Crooked Joe Biden. And under Biden, it's danger, death, and destruction all over the world. That's what it's been. It's been a disaster. Whether it's the borders, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Ukraine, everything is broken. The whole world is broken. a great gentleman, the head of Hungary, he said something the other day. He said they were asking him what would he recommend to Joe Biden to straighten out the world. He said there's only one thing you can do. Only one thing. Put Trump back, he said. You better put Trump back. That's Viktor Orban. Everybody heard of him? He's probably the strongest leader, a very powerful man. But he said, put Trump back. We had no problems with China. We had no problems with the Middle East. We had no problems with anything. They respected him, but they don't respect this guy. We have war in Europe and war in the Middle East because we have the weakest and most incompetent president in American history. You know, I used to be much easier on him. Then I got indicted. I said, now it's time to play hardball. They indicted me for nothing. They indicted me because I attacked an election that was rigged and stolen. And everybody knows it. Just as they have done. How many Democrats said the same thing in 2016, right? But with them, it's okay. With us, we're not allowed to do that. The heinous attacks on Israel this month would never have happened if I was your president. Zero chance of that happening. When I left office, Iran was weak, broke, and desperate to make a deal. They were ready to make a deal. We would have had a deal within 2 weeks after the election. I told other nations, including China, that if you buy oil from Iran, you can't do business in the United States. I said, I'm going to tariff the hell out of you if you buy oil, but you're just not going to do business in the United States. Every single nation complied. They didn't buy any oil. Iran's terrorist regime was bankrupt. It was hemorrhaging money and could barely pay the salaries of the radical Islamic thugs. Couldn't pay. They had no money. I hammered them. In fact, today there was a big article. With Trump, Iran was broke. With Biden, Iran is rich and powerful. It's very simple. He let them all go back, and they're selling more oil than almost anybody in the world. I hammered Iranian oil exports down to record lows. They've never seen anything like it. But then Biden came in, loosened my sanctions. He took some of the sanctions off, actually, and today Iran is producing more than 3 million barrels a day. That's a lot of money. They got so much money. Iran went from bleeding money, having no money under me, to raking in $100 billion a year under crooked Joe Biden. And on top of that, Biden gave them $6 billion for hostages. Remember that? 5 and 5. I said, oh, finally. Usually it's like, 10 and 1. So 5 and 5. I said, they said, well, there's one other thing. What? They get $5 billion. I said, that doesn't sound so good, does it? So they get 5 plus $5 billion. $5 billion. Does anyone know $5 billion? That's a lot of money. And now these tens of billions of dollars are being used to kill, kidnap, torture, rape, and murder innocent people. Would somebody please inform the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden, who doesn't have a clue? He can't walk off a stage. He can't walk off No, the guy can't walk off a stage. He looks around. Oh, I see what happened. This stage is more complex because this actually has a curtain. This is a more expensive stage for you. Normally you can see the exits, right? Oh, maybe that's what happened. I see. Okay, now I get it. He was up here, and he can't find the stairs. But somehow you got to do it, right? There's a stair right there. Now, do you ever see him? He finishes the speech, stumbles through. By that time, it's starting to wear off, Whatever happened to the cocaine they found in the White House? It was weird. Through a presidential entrance. We found massive amounts of cocaine, but we don't know whose it is. I think I know whose it is, you think? But he can't put two sentences together. Well, he dithers around and he illegally attacks his political opponent, me. He attacks his political opponent. I've been indicted more than Alphonse Capone in the last. They all happened so fast, too. They all happened right before the election. How about I have a trial scheduled for the day before Super Tuesday? I can't imagine the courts are going to allow that to happen. The day before Super Tuesday? Oh, no, that's not political, is it? It's not going to matter because the people of the country get it. That's why I'm the only person ever indicted where my numbers went up. It's true. But the great Al Capone, did anybody ever hear of Alphonse Capone? He was so mean. If you looked at him in the wrong way, he'd blow you away. He'd kill you, kill people for fun. Scarface, he had a big scar on his face. I'm sure it happened very innocently. Big, horrible, grotesque scar. Scarface, you ever hear that? Scarface. He was only indicted once. I got indicted 4 times in a matter of seconds. Oh, my father would be so proud of me. Son, you've been indicted? He wouldn't believe it, actually. But they've weaponized law enforcement. That's all they did. Indicted for nothing. They've weaponized law enforcement. But the people of this country get it. We have an incompetent guy. And I used to, you know, out of respect for the office, I never used to talk about him this way. I felt this, but I wouldn't do it out of respect for the office. But once he did that, he did something that's a banana republic. That's what you do in banana republics. That's what you do in third world countries. So while Biden is always trying to blame everyone else for the many mistakes he has made, Iran is rapidly building a large-scale arsenal of nuclear weapons. Did everybody know that? And once they have them, and they weren't building them with me. Number one, they didn't have the money, but they weren't building them with me. I was ready for that if they did. But once they have them, which will be a matter of weeks, you know that? Weeks. All negotiations stop. They won't even pick up the phone to speak to your president as he mumbles along, and they say, what the hell's wrong with that guy? That's when our incompetent fool of a president will drop to his knees and beg Iran for mercy. Please, please. You ever hear the song, James Brown? Please, please, please. James called me Mr. Brown. But he'd say, please, Mr. Ayatollah, sir. This is Joe Biden talking. Please, Mr. Ayatollah, sir. I will give you everything. I will do anything you demand. Please, please don't hurt us. This is the position that this fool has put us in, and we're closer to World War III than we've ever been to any world war. Nobody ever thought a thing like this could happen, and we're closer than ever before. We've never been, and I've been saying it for a long time. Did you ever see Trump was right about everything on hats? I don't know who did the hats, but I have been right about most. And I don't want to be right about that, so I'm not going to make, but I tell you, we are close. We are close. It could happen. And we have a fool. We have an incompetent fool as our president that has no idea. This is nuclear weapons. These are weapons that are so massively destructive. It's obliteration. It's not 2 army tanks running at each other and shooting. 3 years ago, under Trump, Iran was broke, had no nuclear weapons or even the prospect of a nuclear weapon. Biden has made Iran rich in a period of 3 years and has no idea what to do about it. And they are in a position where they're going to have weapons, and they're going to be big ones too. Iran started the attack on Israel and desperately wants to become openly involved. Now, Biden refuses to admit that. Biden says, well, so far we haven't seen any evidence. Well, they're financing Hamas and they're financing Hezbollah. They're giving them the money. They're giving them the training. So he says they haven't, you know, he feels bad because somehow he's like in their pocket. He's in their pocket. But they go around saying death to Israel, death to America, and they chant it openly all over the place. Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. That's my only thing I have to tell you today. Don't let them have it. They would have never had them. We would have made a deal. They would have been satisfied. Everybody would have been satisfied. But then we had that corrupt election. Our country has never been so low or in such danger as it is right now. And don't feel too depressed as I talk to you, because we can bring it back. We've got to win the election. We'll bring it back stronger than ever before. Stronger than ever before. I didn't want to be too much of a downer here. I have to hit you with a little positivity, right? I got to give you a little bit. We'll be stronger than ever, but we got to win this election. It's a long time. You know, you have yours on January 15th, the caucuses, but we have a year, essentially a year to go. A year's a long time when you have incompetent and bad people and corrupt people running our country. But it's very simple. Joe Biden betrayed America and betrayed Israel. But as your president, I will stand with Israel 100%. We have to. We have to. And I kept Israel safe before. Then with 4 more years in the White House, I will defend the state of Israel like no one else can. Nobody else will be able to do that. Look at what we did. We defeated ISIS. Remember when Hillary Clinton, I don't call her crooked anymore. I've given that term over to Biden. I call her beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. Beautiful Hillary. Remember when she was, he'll cause a war with his personality. No, my personality kept us out of war. We didn't have any wars. I was the first one in, I think they say 76 years. We won wars and we brought them back. We defeated ISIS. ISIS was supposedly going to be like 4 years to beat them. I did it in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks, and we got 100% of the ISIS caliphate. I remember when I was at 99%, and the media, the fake news back then, ooh, that's a lot of news. It's a lot of fake news. But they were saying, he's leaving before he completes the task. I said, can Russia, can Iran, can Iraq, which, by the way, is sort of Iran, if you want to know the truth. Another great move by a certain politician who probably ranks right up there with, nobody ranks, by the way, close to the one we have now. But we've had some pretty bad ones. I'll tell you, the happiest president in history right now is Jimmy Carter. Because I would say he was a brilliant president by comparison to crooked Joe Biden. I would say Jimmy Carter was a magnificent, brilliant. He was George Washington compared to this guy. But he's a happy man. That's good. When I'm back in the Oval Office, we will cut off every penny of money that we send to the Palestinians and the terrorists on day one. We will fully support Israel in defeating, dismantling, and permanently destroying the terrorist group known as Hamas. And under my leadership, we not only imposed crushing sanctions on Iran, we unlocked American energy to drastically cut oil prices. You know, we had oil so low that it didn't make sense for Russia. Russia would have never gone into Ukraine anyway. I don't care how high it was. I had a very good relationship with Putin, which the press hates to hear, you know. But it's nice to have good relationships with people that can cause lots of problems. But we had a very good relationship with a lot of them, and I'll tell you, there was no way he would have done it. And I told him, I said, you can't do it. If you do it, it's going to be hell to pay. You're going to be hit so hard. And no. I said, no, you will. I told him, I won't tell you what I said, but I told him. And again, we got along, but I said, listen, you know, we have a good relationship, but we're going to hit you so hard. And here's the thing. I told him what we're going to do, and he said, no way. I said, way. He said, no way. I said, way again. And he didn't believe me, okay? He didn't believe me, but he believed me 10%. Brad, he believed me 10%. That's all you need, right? So 10% was fine. He would have never gone in. And he wasn't. And by the way, he didn't go in. We won 4 years. He didn't go in. And then I think what happened is he saw the gross incompetence of a good withdrawal. I got it down to 2,500 troops from, you know, many, many times that. And we were going to withdraw with dignity and with strength and with respect. I spoke to the head of the Taliban, Abdul. I said, still the head. I said, Abdul, you're killing our soldiers. Don't do it anymore. We're going to hit you so hard, you're not even going to believe it. But why? Do you send me a picture of my home? I said, well, I will tell you. We'll have to discuss that someday. We'll have to discuss. But they were, from that time, we were in 18 months without a soldier being shot at or killed. Not even shot at. 18 months. We're getting along just fine. And then when this clown came in, they had a field day. They just had a field day. But we went 18 months, no soldier killed, no soldier even shot at. And they were knocking them off like you wouldn't believe. They were killing our soldiers and others under the Obama administration, of which Biden was a piece of it. He'd go to all these countries. You know, he was going to all these countries with his son. At some point, does this thing not work with the son, right? You know, at some point you say, look, this son thing isn't working out very well. But he'd go with Hunter to all these countries. He visited them, and I guess they did numbers. But it was very sad to see and to read, and you see it going on right now at levels that you wouldn't believe. But 3 years ago, we were energy independent. We were energy dominant within 4 or 5 months. We were going to sell oil to Europe and all parts of the world. We're going to pay off our debt. We were going to reduce your taxes. I gave you the largest tax cut in history, bigger than Ronald Reagan's tax cut. Gave you the largest regulation cuts. But now would have the energy future would never be hostage to hostile foreign powers. We didn't need it. We didn't have to worry about that. But Biden surrendered to Iran, totally surrendered. Crooked Joe shut down American energy, and he unleashed Iranian oil like nobody's ever seen before. Made them really rich, really far greater than the $6 billion you read about. A little more complex, but far greater. That's why I thought I'd explain it to you. It's not too complex. They made a fortune. They got hundreds of billions of dollars. On day one, I will shut down Iranian oil, and I will unleash American energy like it's never been unleashed. We were ready to do that. We had it unleashed. And we will drill, baby drill. Is that okay? Remember I told you in Iowa, I said, go out and buy bigger tractors and more land, right? That's what I said. Just go back. And that's what happened. I made a deal with China, the only one to make a deal with China. It's funny, I told this story before. I heard my people, I said, how much money is it that we're talking about? Because China took tremendous advantage of our country, especially with the farmers. I said, what's the number? I asked Sonny Perdue, Secretary of Agriculture. I said, what's the number? He said, 28 billion, sir. It's 28 billion. I got you $28 billion from China. That's what I asked for. He said, I didn't want to get greedy. 28 billion from China. That's why when they say, sir, please don't talk that way when you're in Iowa. It sounds like you're so arrogant. And you shouldn't do it. I said, but I have to. Because I said, there's no way I lose Iowa. I got their farmers $28 billion for Nebraska and Iowa, Wisconsin, and any farm state. They got a lot of money. They got a lot. They got that money they couldn't believe. Who else would have asked China? I'm sorry, you got to give us $28 billion. No, we got hundreds of billions of dollars for the country. I took the $28 billion out of that. No other president got 10 cents from China, not 10 cents. I got hundreds of billions of dollars from China. They weren't particularly in love with me, but I actually got along very well with President Xi until COVID, in which case that was a case too far. But most importantly, we will keep the radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country, like I did for 4 years. Like I did for 4 years, I kept them out, right? I wouldn't have said it. I told you I wouldn't have said it. In 3.5 years, I wouldn't have said it 1 month short. I didn't want to talk about it, but right after we got out, I said, for 4 years, you had no problem. The atrocities in Israel are a horrific reminder that immigration security is truly national security. It really is. It's national security. We have people coming into our country now that are the same people in many cases as did what they did 2 weeks ago in Israel. The purpose of U.S. immigration law is not to protect the world. It's to protect the United States of America. We have to protect our own country. And you've just seen these depraved savages rampaging through civilian communities, house by house, torturing, raping, and maiming innocent men, women, and children. It's horrible. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. I don't think we've ever seen where they kill babies in the worst manner. I won't even say what they do to the babies, but you've seen it. They kidnapped infants and they hurt the elderly horribly and took them hostage, and ultimately they killed them and tortured them to death. They had children tied up and shot, and much worse. I mean, that's as bad as it gets, but it even gets worse. The babies were murdered and they were burned. People who think like this, people who support this, and people who sympathize with this are sick. They're sick and they're evil, and they're not going to be fixed. You're not going to make them into wonderful people one day. I didn't know you had flies in Iowa. I hate flies. Now, I'll get in trouble for saying that. Cruelty to animals. No, it's true. You know, I said the other day, I was at a place, and there's a beautiful place, but they had like flies. And I said, get fly paper. They said, sir, they're not allowed to sell it anymore because of cruelty to animals. They actually said that. I don't know. Can you get fly paper? It used to be great, right? But they said, you can't do that anymore, sir. It's cruelty. what the hell is going on with this country? But today I'm announcing vital steps it will take to protect our people in the next term. We need this. First, upon my inauguration, and it's our inauguration, it's going to be our inauguration, not mine. You know, when I ran for president, I said this is going to cost a lot of money. I had no idea it was going to cost this much, but I don't care. It doesn't matter, because what we've done is so incredible, and what we'll do is, in a certain way, I think even more important, because they've shown how bad they are. They've shown how sick they are. They've shown how incompetent they are, and that's why we're doing the numbers that we're doing. We're doing numbers that are far greater than the numbers. You know, we did amazing, obviously, in 2016, but a lot of people don't understand. We did much better in 2020. Got millions more votes. That never happens. Usually a president gets less votes and wins. I got numbers that nobody believed, and was told by the biggest pollsters, Fabrizio, McLaughlin, "Sir, have you got 63 million votes again?" It's a landslide. I said, well, that's good. We got millions and millions more votes. No president's ever gotten more votes, I mean, by a number, I think 2 or 3 times, what anybody else has ever gotten over the previous term. And then they said, we lost the election. Oh, really? Really? No, they used COVID to cheat. They did a lot of things that were terrible. Terrible. They went up. They didn't use legislatures. They stuffed ballot boxes. All you have to do is look at 2,000 mules, right? They stuffed the ballot boxes. Do you notice the way those books have all disappeared? Somebody said, you know, I can't get the book on 2,000 mules. I can't get the tape. I can't get the book. They want to get rid of all that stuff because they understand it. But as I've already said many, many times before, I will immediately reinstate and expand the wildly successful Trump travel ban on entry from terror-plagued countries, territories, and places. We're going to, they ended it. They ended it. And it just kept us safe. We wouldn't let people come in from certain countries where there's tremendous terror. Makes sense, right? If you're coming from somewhere full of people who want to kill Americans, we will not let you in. We worked very hard on that. We had the greatest border, most secure, safest border in the history of our country. We built 561 miles of wall. Nobody likes to say that. You know what they do is, if there's like a board laying there from 50 years ago or 100 years ago, 2x4 that's rotted, they'll say, it wasn't a new build, it was renovation. No. If they had steel rotting in the sand that was a foot tall, that was ready to fall over, or fell over, they would say, oh, that was a renovation. No. We did a great job with the wall. We did a great job with Mexico, too. They gave us 28,000 soldiers free. You know, when I say Mexico will pay for the wall, they paid for much more than the wall. They gave us 28,000 soldiers free. And when I asked them for the soldiers, I said, look, you've got these caravans, they're pouring through Mexico, and you know how to stop them. You got to stop them. And I had a great relationship with the president of Mexico. He's great guy. He's a socialist. As I say, you can't have everything. But he's a great guy, very popular, too, in Mexico. And I said, you have to give us 28,000 soldiers while we're building the wall. He said, I can't do that. He gave me his top people. We'd started negotiating. One man, very smart. He was the top person in all of Mexico. I said, you got to give us 28,000 soldiers for the border. He laughed at me. What? What, are you kidding? I said, free of charge, by the way. He said, why would we do a thing like that? I said, you got to do it. The woman at the State Department, you've heard the story. Sometimes I'll tell it. It's a little long, but it's sort of cool. But you've heard it, where a woman at the State, who was really good, but she never won. She said, I've been in charge of Mexico for 20 or 25 years. She said, we've negotiated with them for years. They'll never do that. Not only that, end, catch, and release into our country, remain in Mexico, little things like that, Title 42, all these, having to do with sickness. We had people coming in with infectious disease. That's unbelievable, what's happening. Infectious disease, a big problem. And a lot of Americans are getting sick because of what's happening at the border. But I said to him, no, you have to do it. He said, no, we won't do that. I said, yes, you will, 100%. I looked at him. I said, 100% you'll do it. He didn't know what the hell I was talking. He said, no, we're not going to do that, sir. I said, yes, you will. Here's the story. It's Friday at 4 o'clock. On Monday at 7 in the morning, Every single car that you make, which is millions of cars, you know they took 32% of our automobile business. And by the way, the United Auto Workers ought to vote for Trump because their union is selling them down the tubes, okay? Their union is selling them down the tubes with this all-electric car fantasy. They cost too much and they don't go far. Electric cars are good if you have a towing company. Other than that, in fact, I'm thinking about opening up a massive towing company, and I'll quit this race for president. We're only leading by 58 points or something. No, it's terrible. This whole electric car is sick. It's sick. They don't go far. It's good if you want to go to the grocery store, take a quick little drive. You know, they say the best thing about an electric car, the first 10 minutes, you feel great. The next 45 minutes, you're worried about where the hell am I going to get a recharge? So it's a problem. But they don't go far, and they're very expensive. And the other thing is you'll never make them in this country because everything you need for an electric car is in China. We have the stuff that you need for our cars. It's called gasoline and oil. It's right underground. And you know, they've sold, I have a friend who's a dealer. I think he said he's got 4,000 orders for new cars. Out of the 4,000, 100 is for electric. People don't want them. They want them. You should have electric. You should have hybrid. You should have full gasoline. You should have everything. But they're trying to make you buy electric, and it's not going to work. They want also electric trucks. They want electric trucks. I'm dealing with the big trucking industry. Some of them I know. They have hundreds of these trucks, and they're incredible people. They're very powerful people, and they're forced to use an electric truck. I said, so what's wrong with that? He said, number one, the battery is so large, would take up a big portion of the truck. But here's the real problem. You take a look at Peterbilt. You look at some of these companies that build the trucks. So a truck on diesel can go up to 2,000 miles. Think of that, 2,000 miles. An electric truck, which has a different kind of power, not the right power, an electric truck will go 300 miles. So that means you have to fill it up with charge 6 or 7 times during a trip instead of having, you want to talk about a supply chain problem. And the battery is so big. I was in South Carolina, a great state, great place, and I visited a very big boat manufacturer. He said, well, we have some problems. They want us to go no faster than 2 miles an hour. He makes speedboats, beautiful boats that go out pretty far. And he said, they want us to go 2 miles an hour so we don't hurt the whale. But there's only been one whale hurt from a boat in the last 50 years. But they're putting windmills all over the place, and now the whales are washing up on shore, so they want to, that's okay. But I said to them, I said, let me ask you a question. How does an electric boat work? He said, well, we don't know, but it's so heavy that we don't know if we can keep it afloat. I said, other than that, do you have any problems? And the battery's very big. You know, it's many times the size of a tank for gas. Many, many times those big, beautiful Mercury engines, right? Many times the size. So he said the whole thing becomes almost a battery. I said, if it goes down and you happen to be the unfortunate person that's sitting on top of that big battery, do you get electrocuted? And he said, you know, nobody ever asked me that question. See, my uncle was a great professor at MIT. So that was a natural question for me. Great professor. I think he was the longest serving, Dr. John Trump. He was the longest serving professor. He served almost 40 years at MIT. So, you know, I have a natural, I believe in that stuff. You know, you have certain natural things, right? But I said, so let me ask you, if you have a choice between getting electrocuted from the battery or jumping 10 yards away and there's a shark over there, what do you take? Because I told him what I'd take. I will take the battery electrocution every single time, right? No, but it's crazy. And then the worst of all is they want to make our Army tanks. You know, we have these great tanks, Sherman tanks. They want to make the Army tanks all electric so that as we go in to obliterate a country, we do it in a hospitable way. Now think of it, we do it in a way so that we're not hurting their atmosphere. These people are crazy. And the problem is, again, size is a big problem with these batteries. You know, you'd have to tow a big truck that's bigger than the tank behind it. In other words, to get it, you'd need another tank, the equivalent, you tow it from behind. But it has a different kind of power than you need, it's not right. And there aren't too many charging stations in areas that you're obliterating, right? So they want it to be environmentally friendly. They want our tanks. So you go in and you knock the hell out of a country or city, but we do it in an environmentally friendly way. These people are crazy. There's another thing having to do with planes. They wanted a certain type of fuel because it's more environmentally friendly. I said, what does it do to the plane? Well, sir, it's approximately 15% less efficient, but we can live with that. I said, you can't live with it if you're a pilot and somebody else has another plane. It's crazy what's going on. Can't allow it to go on, actually. So the whole electric thing, we have to, if you want an electric car, you should buy it. You should buy a hybrid. You should buy all gasoline. We should sell everything like we used to, and it'll be great. The Democrats fought us like crazy over the travel ban. You know that? They fought us like crazy. I had to go through the whole court system, but after 18 months in court, the Supreme Court finally ruled the travel ban was totally constitutional because we want to keep bad people out that want to destroy our country. As president, I also suspended refugee resettlement when we entered office in 2017. Nobody had ever heard of it before. We didn't want that. And we'll do it again. We'll put it right back into place. I banned refugees from Syria. I banned refugees from Somalia. Very dangerous places, and from all of the most dangerous places all over the world, I banned them. I said, I'm sorry. And in my second term, we're going to expand each and every one of those bans because we have no choice. Some very rough people, some very, very rough people come out of those areas. They want to blow up our country. We aren't bringing in anyone from Gaza, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, or Libya, or anywhere else that threatens our security. But I will say this. Tremendous numbers of people are pouring into our country right now. We have open borders. It's the stupidest thing anyone's ever seen. Millions of people a month are coming into our country. We have no idea where they're coming from, but a lot of them are the same people that went around doing what they did to Israel 2 weeks ago. A lot of them are the same people. And you have a disproportionate number of young, very strong men. Strong men. Sorry, women, but I have to say this. You have a very, very powerful contingent of very strong men, and they're pouring into our country. What are they doing? What are they doing? I also issued a historic rule proclaiming that no refugees would be resettled in your communities without your consent, and we will reinstate that rule on day one. You had to consent. Because you have towns and cities, but you have towns. Look at New York, what's happened to New York, where they're laying all over Madison Avenue. You have shop owners that have been there for years. They're all closing their stores. They're going out of business. Next, we'll implement strong ideological screening of all immigrants to the United States. No longer will we allow dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs to get residency in our country. We're not going to let them stay here. We're not going to let them. We're going to have the largest deportation effort in history. And people say, oh, that's so mean, but I think meaner is when you have thousands of people being killed all over. It's one of those things. You know, Dwight Eisenhower, you'll feel better about this, because people didn't consider him that tough a guy, but he was actually a very good president, good general, very good general, but he became president, and he was a very big person on deportation. He deported more than anybody else. He said, they cannot be here. You have to come into our country legally. That's what I say. You have to come into our country legally, and you have to love our country. You can't hate our country. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. You're just disqualified. If you want to abolish the state of Israel, you're disqualified. If you support Hamas or any ideology that's having to do with that, or any of the other really sick thoughts that go through people's minds, very dangerous thoughts, you're disqualified. If you're a communist, a Marxist, or a fascist, other than the people that are already here, of which many are in the Biden administration, you're disqualified. I'd like to get them out, too. Maybe we'll work on that next. In addition, we will aggressively deport resident aliens with jihadist sympathies. We have to. This isn't like being Mr. Nice Guy. We have to, or we're going to have a country that's going to be blown to shreds because bad things are happening. Millions and millions of people have come into our country, and nobody has any idea where they're from. Some from countries that nobody's ever heard of. In the wake of the attacks on Israel, Americans have been disgusted to see the open support for terrorists among the legions of foreign nationals on college campuses. They're teaching your children hate. They're teaching your children hate. Under the Trump administration, we will revoke the student visas of radical anti-American and anti-Semitic foreigners at our colleges and universities, and we will send them straight back home. They go back home. Enjoy your life. Likewise, the mobs of, literally barbarians that we saw in the streets of New York and other cities last week have no place in America. We can't have it. We have to. No country can sustain it. And we all want to be nice, but no country can sustain it. Jewish mothers and fathers should never have to send their children to school fearing they'll be shot or stabbed on a so-called day of jihad, which is happening. It's a day of jihad. Under my administration, we will proactively send ICE to pro-jihadist demonstrations to enforce our immigration laws and remove the violators from our country. Many of these people are not from our country, and many of them are being supported with radical left money. The money from radical left people, you know who I'm talking about, will continue the process we started in my first 4 years of stripping citizenship from criminals, terrorists, and immigration cheaters and frauds. They've come into our country at levels, and they're coming to Iowa, you know that. And it's dangerous. You've had killings that nobody could even believe. Nobody's seen the kind of killings you've had. Finally, we cannot forget that the same people that attacked Israel are right now pouring in at levels that nobody can believe into our beautiful USA through our totally open border and southern border concept of what? Civilization, concept of stupidity. Again, we had the strongest border in history. Now we have the weakest border, I believe, in the history of the world. I don't think any border in a third world country has been like this. You take a look at what's coming in, and I think the real number is going to be 15 million people before it's over. That's bigger than New York State before it's over. 15 million people. And many of those people, again, I say it, they're from prisons, they're from mental institutions, and they're terrorists. Congratulations. This is what this man has done to our country. We will be paying the price for this for years to come if we do not do something about it immediately. You know, I do something sometimes called the snake. Did anyone ever hear of the snake? Did you hear of it? Should I do it? Should I do it? Because I have it here, and we have lots of time today. What the heck? I'm actually going back to New York tonight. I'd rather be right here with you right now. But we have plenty of time, and it's a snake. And what it is it's representative of the people that we're allowing into our country, because we know who they are. We're trying to be nice, but sometimes you can't be so nice. You have to do it. We have to run it like a country. You look at some countries have absolutely no problems. You look at others, they're a disaster. But our country is one of the great disasters of the world. We've gone from a great nation to a nation that's got problems like we've never had before. So this has to do with immigration. This has to do with Israel and what's taking place in Israel with the people that did that horrible, horrible thing 2 weeks ago on her wake. And I think who's heard this before? Who? Should I do it again? Any no's? I don't think so. No, people like it. It's sort of rather incredible. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in and I'll take care of you. That's exactly what we're doing, right? I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious, vicious, vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night. As soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying, "Thank you, ma'am," the snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Shut up, silly woman," said the said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." And that's really it. That's what we're doing. We're taking in people. We're taking in people into our country. I think it's terrific. We're taking in what this is, what it represents. We're taking in people into our country that are going to cause tremendous problems, and most people don't want to talk about it. Upon our inauguration, because it's our inauguration, it's not my inauguration, we're all president as far as I'm concerned, because what I spent on this deal, I thought it was going to be a lot, but it's billions and billions, and I don't mind at all. I mean, Bloomberg spent what? Michael Bloomberg, $2.5 billion, and he only got the first question, right? He was decimated with the first question, $2.5 billion. But I spent a lot to do this, and I'm very glad. Somebody said, "Are you glad you did it?" I said, "Yes, absolutely." They thought I'd say no. I had a nice life before this, you know. I had a life of, you wouldn't believe how nice my life was. This is a little different, but there's nothing like this, because we're doing an incredible job for our country. We won't have a country. We won't have a country. I think if this election turns out to be rigged, and we have the best lawyers in the world this time, nobody thought they could pull that off. But if it's a rigged election or a fake election, or if we lose this election, we are going to have, I believe, no country left. I believe that's going to happen. But I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, larger than Eisenhower's, including all of the illegal aliens from countries that hate us. These are countries that hate us. And I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act to remove all known or suspected gang members, drug dealers, cartel members, and security threats from any kind and of any kind from the United States of America. We're going to get them out of our country. It's going to happen fast, too. It's no wonder the far-left lunatics are getting desperate to stop our movement by any means necessary. Crooked Joe Biden and his radical left Democrats, and they are really radical left, have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, me, and others too, people of religion, a lot of others too. It's sick what's going on. This is high-level election interference. They want to disturb the election. This is their form of cheating this time. And it's happening for a single reason, because I'm the only candidate they do not want to run against. You know, they always say disinformation. Oh, we want to run against Ron DeSanctimonious, even though he's losing by 10 points to Biden, if you can believe. How the hell do you lose to Biden? But they say that. See, they say the opposite. Disinformation, misinformation, they're very good at it. They'll say, we really want to run against Trump, because that's who they're running against. We really want to run against Trump, but they don't. And the way I look at it, we beat him twice. Now we have to beat him a third time. We beat him. We beat the hell out of him the second time. Think of it. Think of it. Think of it. We did much better the second time than we did the first. Remember that. And they're getting beaten very badly by me in the polls. They think the only way they can catch me is to stop me from speaking. They want to take away my voice. And a judge gave a gag order today. Did you hear that? On speech, which I believe is totally unconstitutional, what she did. A judge gave a gag order. A judge doesn't like me too much. Her whole life is not liking me. But she gave a gag order. You know what a gag order is? You can't speak badly about your opponent. But this is weaponry all being done because Joe Biden is losing the election, and losing very, very badly to all of us in the polls. He's losing badly. But what they don't understand is that I am willing to go to jail if that's what it takes for our country to win and become a democracy again. Thank you. Thank you very much. So true. So true. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're being laughed at all over the world. We have become a fascist state run by incompetent people that want to see us fail. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to have our country destroyed. The show 60 Minutes should be ashamed of themselves if anybody watched it on Sunday night. They just interviewed crooked Joe Biden and led him along like he was a child. Each question contained the answer. This was a question, isn't it true that you love Israel? You know, it's every question, because they were afraid he might say no or something. And it was so weakly and apologetically asked by the host, who should have really, he should have never done what he did, that it was a joke. It's become a laughingstock all over the country. You take a look at what's happened, and people are showing it. And it really should be considered a campaign contribution to the Democrat Party. That's what they do. These should be campaign contributions. Why should CBS or these other networks get free public airwaves for this highly partisan type of show that they do, which never apologized to me for the mistakes they made on the laptop from hell? Remember that I said laptop from hell? Remember they came up with 51 intelligence agents that said, no, it came out of Russia. It came out of Russia right before the election. They're protecting Biden even though he is the most corrupt and incompetent president in the history of our country. They're protecting him. It's amazing to me. And again, the Carter administration looks brilliant by comparison. The only thing the Biden regime does well is go after crooked Joe's political opponents, and even that will fail. That's going to fail. You watch. That's going to fail. It's going to fail bad. It's got to fail. Otherwise, we don't have a country. If it doesn't fail, we don't have a country. The Middle East, Ukraine, inflation, bad economy, the open border, horrendous Afghanistan, embarrassment, gas prices, our great auto worker death march. They're killing the auto workers by forcing the electric cars. They're killing the auto. You're not going to have any auto workers. I went to Michigan 2 weeks ago. I said, listen, don't worry about what you're getting per hour. That's not your problem. Your problem is you're not going to have a job in 2 years if they accept these mandates for electric cars. But so much more make crooked Joe a total disaster for our once great USA. Have to say once great. In the new Morning Consult poll, highly respected, we're up almost 50 points. Think of that. We're up almost 50 points. These guys ought to get out. And I hear they're canceling all the debates after Miami because nobody watched. They had a debate. It was the lowest rated debate in history. Okay, that's what I read. I felt terribly about that. But we're up almost 50 points on Ron DeSanctimonious, a man who I got him the job, and then he said 4 years later, well, I'll run against him. Oh, that's not working out too well. In the Iowa State poll, we're dominating DeSantis 55-17, and he's sinking very, very rapidly. Ron DeSantis. That's the abbreviation for DeSanctimonious, in case you remember. Ron DeSantis, somebody from one of the networks on a straight interview. Ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to have Governor Ron DeSantis with us. It's DeSantis. But he actually changed his name, remember? To DeSantis. And I left a message, never change your name in the middle of a campaign. It's not a good thing. DeSantis. With his shoes, the whole deal. He's got the whole deal going. And in the general election, I'm beating Biden by a lot. In the echelon poll, I'm leading Biden by 4 points, and in the and by the way, DeSantis is getting killed, and so is every other Republican candidate. And in the ABC Washington Post poll that just came out, I'm up by 10, probably 11 points. That's on Biden. That's on crooked Joe. The radical left, Democrats, rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. Thank you. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor because I'm being indicted for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, if I wasn't running, I wouldn't have any of this stuff. Or if I was way back in the pack, they wouldn't have any. They wouldn't bother. They do this to anybody. I mean, they have Trump derangement syndrome at a level that is far greater. I don't even know if I'm correct. I probably would be. They would go after. We won that election. They couldn't believe it. We believed it, but we won in 2016. They couldn't believe it. Hillary Clinton said, "Why didn't they do that for me? I was closer," meaning stuff the ballot boxes. It's true. She was closer in a few states. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you, and I'm just standing in their way. I'm happily standing in their way. But this is more than a campaign. This is a movement. I've never said it. This is bigger than 2020 and bigger than 2016. I never thought I'd say that. I thought 2016 was really earth-shaking, and it was. But this is bigger. This is more important because we've seen how bad they are. The reason this is so big now is we've seen how bad a job they've done. Every single thing they touch is bad. They don't have any success. The economy stinks. Inflation's through the roof. We have the highest inflation in 72 years. And inflation is a nation buster. If you look at inflation throughout the decades and the centuries, countries with inflation, they disintegrate. But together we'll get that taken care of very quickly. You know why? We're going to have so much energy. It's going to bring everything down. The energy is going to bring it. That's what killed us in the first place. They stopped everything, and it went up to $115 a barrel. With your autos, it was over $5. In California, $7 and $8, even more than that. You couldn't even get it. And inflation began because of that. Now everything is causing it. Bacon, bacon went up 5 times in the last year. 5 times. Together we fought for Iowa and Iowa farmers like no administration has ever fought before. Nobody fought like I did for the farmer. I ended the NAFTA disaster, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with the brand new USMCA, the best trade deal ever made. And you guys are doing great because of it. It was very important. And again, I gave the farmers $28 billion. I gave them a lot. That's why I know I'm going to win. I feel confident. Unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who hates ethanol, hates it. He's voted against it numerous times. Now he's coming along. He'll probably say, well, I'm all for ethanol. One thing with a politician, when they are against something at the beginning, Brad will tell you this better than anybody. When they're with you, when they're with something at the beginning, that's where they're going to be in the end. So he may change his little direction on the election. I don't even know if he has. Nobody cares. I don't think anyone really cares. But in the end, he's going to be against ethanol, and he's going to be against Social Security, and he's going to be against Medicare, if you can believe it. I kept my promise to fight for Iowa ethanol and issued a rule declaring that E15 would be made available all year round. Remember, it was only 8 months. And unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who voted to gut Medicare and Social Security and voted 3 times to raise the retirement age to 70, big increase, I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. And we don't have to do that because you deserve that. You know, if we drill and if we sell oil, and we have so much potential. We don't have to destroy people with Social Security, Medicare. Here's just some of what we will do when we become the 47th President of the United States, when we become. Before I even arrive in the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Now, of course, Putin right now, he's sitting there like, because all the focus is on Israel, and he's bombing the hell out of them. It's terrible what's going on. But I'll get it done. I know both very well. I'll get it done. I'll get it done quickly. It's horrible. And again, it's not a question of winning, losing. I want to see people stop dying. When I was interviewed by those terrible people at CNN Live, remember we did that town hall? Did anybody see that town hall? It was the highest rated show they've had in 11 years, and they fired the head of CNN. Explain that. I must have done well. I either did great or horribly, one or the other, but they fired him. No, but I explained things on that live show. See, I love live television because they can't cut you off, or they're going to have a lot of open time if they do. That's why I love these guys. All those guys back there, they have those cameras raging, but when they think I'm going to say something bad about the network, those red lights go off so fast. But I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent World War III. I'll prevent it. I'm going to prevent it. I will end Joe Biden's inflation disaster. We will quickly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world, which we had before. I will deliver additional tax cuts. The biggest tax cuts ever granted were my tax cuts, bigger than Reagan. People, they don't want to hear it, but they were. Just like in Florida, nobody ever wants to write this. I got 1.1 million more votes than DeSanctimonious. You know, they said, oh, he did well in Florida. Well, I did a lot better than he did. I got 1.1 million votes more than he did. Regulation, they don't, right now, I don't think he's even electable in Florida. You want to know the truth, if you want to look at it. But we'll do regulation cuts, energy price cuts, and interest rate cuts. Right now, you can't borrow money from a bank, and if you do, it's so expensive it doesn't work, and the housing industry is suffering, everything's suffering. But more importantly, you can't buy a house now because the rates are up from 2.5% when I was there to 8%, 9%, 10%, and you can't get any money. Other than that, it's doing very well. Biden has three major problems, and they all begin with the letter I: inflation, immigration, and incompetence. You ever hear that one before? On day one, I will repeal Joe Biden's insane ethanol industry-killing electric vehicle mandate. We're going to knock that out so fast. And you know who's going to vote for me because of that? Every auto worker. I think I have their votes anyway, you want to know the truth. But the auto workers, they love Trump. Because, you know, our auto industry was 50% of our industry was stolen between Mexico, China, Canada. Probably a lot more than 50%, I believe. But we're going to bring it all back. Under a Trump administration, gasoline-fired engines will be allowed, but child sexual mutilation will be banned. You know what that means, yeah? I'm always amazed. I'm always amazed when I say that, you know, because they mutilate sexually your children without your permission. And every time I say it, I say, could you imagine 10 years ago, 15 years ago, making that statement? People in the audience would say, what's wrong with that guy? Sexual mutilation. That's what they do. I will also sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our beautiful children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate. It's ridiculous. And another one which you can't believe that you have to say, 10 years ago, they would have said, take that man off the stage. There's something wrong with him. I will keep men out of women's sports, okay? Simple. Who thinks that that's like a good idea? But you know what? The Democrats do. I don't. Who can imagine? Do you ever see some of the records that have been broken? Like in weightlifting, I think they lifted up 150 pounds. It's actually a very bad thing for women. It's very unfortunate that it's happening. It demoralizes women. It's a horrible thing. Weightlifting, swimming, all of these sports, records are being broken by numbers nobody ever thought were even possible. The swimming record was obliterated by, you know, they're looking for a tenth of a second, and, you know, people beat it by 2 minutes. It's crazy. The weightlifting, 150 pounds by a guy that didn't lift before. Have you lifted before? Beating champions. Have you lifted before? Well, not too much. Boom. And they break the record by numbers that are just crazy. I always say they put a quarter of an ounce on one side of the barbell. They put a quarter of an ounce on the other side. They go for a record that's been standing for 18 years. And a young woman gets up and she works so hard. And I won't go through the whole act because you know the First Lady hates when I do that. She hates, she said, it's not presidential, but I think it's fine. Oh. Her mom and dad are in the audience, right? They're so proud, but they're doing it, not making it. They put that quarter of an ounce on each side. Boom, you can't do it. Sorry, Mom. I'll do it again. I'll work so hard. Then a guy comes up who transitioned, and they ask him that question, have you had success in weightlifting before? No, I've never really done it before. Oh, good. And he gets up, bing. Do you want me to do it a few more times? Yeah. It's great. Swimming, the same thing. You know, the swimming records are being obliterated. It's ridiculous. It's very, very ridiculous. And I can't even believe we have to talk about it. And, you know, young ladies that are being affected by it very greatly, like swimming champions, they're afraid to talk about it. They're actually afraid to talk about it. Just as I did 4 years ago, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, which, as you know, is under siege. And I kept it perfect for you. I kept it perfect for you. It's under siege. And I will continue to protect innocent life nobody did for you. And when the Republicans start speaking about it, because, you know, the Democrats are the radicals. The Democrats are the radicals because they'll kill the child in the 4th month, 5th month, 6th month, 7th month, 8th month, 9th month, even after birth. Even after, remember that wacky former governor of Virginia where he said, yes, we will take the baby and we will discuss. This is after the 9th month. The baby is born. And we will discuss with the mother what we want to do with the baby. They'll kill the baby. They're the radicals. The pro-lifers aren't the radicals. They're the radicals. And when politicians, and some of them do and some of them don't, you have to go with the exceptions for the election, but you also have to follow your heart. You have to follow your heart. But when politicians speak about that strongly and with conviction, it's a fantastic issue, but you have to go with what you believe. You have to go with what you feel. Very important. But we got it done. We ended Roe v. Wade, which is the most radical. And we brought it back to the states, by the way. We brought it back to the states where every legal scholar, even those opposed, every legal scholar said it should be. We did something that nobody thought would be possible. For 52 years, they've been trying to do it. I got it done. And, again, it's got to be spoken about properly. Ronald Reagan, as you know, wanted the exceptions. He was in favor. He wanted the exceptions very strongly, felt that exceptions were important. Some people don't. Most people do, but some people don't. And you have to follow what you follow. But it's an amazing thing that was done. Nobody thought it would be possible. And we will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections, and our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. One-day voting, paper ballots, and voter ID. But until then, Republicans have to compete, and we have to win. Once we win, get me in there, we'll change things around. It'll be so beautiful. You know, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. No country ever did what we did. That's why we have this kind of support. If we didn't, you wouldn't be giving us this support, both in security and every other thing that we did. Rebuilding the military. We have tremendous support in the military, tremendous support from every single group, including women and suburban women. You know why? They want safety. They want safety. A lot of suburban women, they said, oh, Trump's not doing well with suburban women. I think we did great with suburban women. I think that we had a lot of bad things happening, but, you know, they want safety. They want security. They don't want to have a low-income development built next to them in their house that they work so hard to get with their husbands, you know? And we ended all of that. So we're doing well. We did well with every single group. And what's happened is we did well, but people take it for granted a little bit. For instance, we had the safest border ever. And in 2020, I never talked about the border because we had such a good border. There was nothing to talk about. I said, can I talk about the border? Sir, nobody cares about the border. I said, that's terrible. In 2016, it was the single biggest issue. In 2020, I couldn't talk about it because nobody cared. They fell asleep. Because I did it. I did a great job on the border. But now the border is worse than it ever was in history. It makes 2016 look like a safe border. They've destroyed what we did. I can get it back. We'll get Tom Homan and Brandon Judd, and we'll get all of these guys that are so great. And the people I had. You know, incredibly, All Biden had to do, one of his consultants think he looks good in a bathing suit, and they send him to the beach a lot, you know? On Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, does he ever go into the office? But they send him to the beach, and he's got a problem because those chairs weigh about 3 ounces. You know, they're marvels. They can hold a body, but a child can lift them up, right? He can't. And he could barely get his feet through the sand. And he sits there all day long at the beach, right? If he went to the beach, instead of destroying our border, destroying our military, destroying our country, if he just went to the beach all day long and just let everything be run the way it was, he would have gone down, really, as a very good president. He's destroyed everything. And a lot of it was, they say, he destroyed because anything I did, he just wanted to do different. How stupid is that? Because we had the safest border in history. Now we have the most unsafe border of any nation in history, in my opinion. And just in conclusion, this is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. All of the things that we've been talking about. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is cratering. Inflation is totally out of control. It's very bad. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Remember North Korea, how bad it was? And I got along with Kim Jong-un. They formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. If we lose our currency, we'll be the greatest. We will be a third world nation then. But it won't happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia would never have happened. Ukraine, China. Think of that. Russia with Ukraine, and China would not have even thought about going into Taiwan. And I had, with President Xi, I had conversations about it. I said, you can't do it. You can't do it if you do it. It was almost an identical conversation I had with President Putin, but I used the names of different cities. Does that make sense to anybody? But I said, you can't do it, and he didn't do it. He only did it after I left. Planes. A week after I left, they had 28 bombers flying over Taiwan. They never did that with me. But I would have left Afghanistan as an example. I was the one that got them down. It was 21 years with dignity. We would have had such dignity, not embarrassment. Most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. If you took the 10 worst presidents of the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. And I used to say 5. And I'd always preface it by saying, I think I could say 10. I think I can say 10. You take the 10 worst presidents, they would not have done, even weaponization, nobody's done that. They would not have done the damage that this man's done to our democracy, to our country. We're a failing nation. We're a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt, and we can't ever let it happen. If you want to save America from Crooked Joe and the radical left, then get every patriot you know. Make sure that you're registered Republicans. You have to be registered Republican. And get them out to vote in their local precinct caucus at 7 p.m. on Monday, January 15th. January 15th, so important. Get them to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. We have to send it off with a bang. We're going to win Iowa, but we got to win by, we want to win by a big number because we want to go into that election. And remember, the only reason you first is because I kept you there. A lot of people like to take credit. There was only one person that kept you first. We're asking you to commit to caucus for us and to bring as many people as you can. You bring 3 or 5 or 10 or 20. And it's very important, so important. It sets a tone for the rest of the election because in November we have to win. Sign up at ia.donaldjtrump.com and get involved. 2024 is our final battle. It's our final battle. This country is going to either be greater than ever before, or we're not going to have a country. That's how bad it all is. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. They want to go to war with every country. They know nothing about it. Let's just go to war. Let's make all those missiles and let's just go to war. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communist, Marxist, and fascist, and we throw out the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. They're so They're so sad. They have such an important place, and they're so fake. They're so corrupt. They have a lower rating now in the public eye than Congress. Can you believe that? But they serve such a function. They could do such a great thing. It's so hard without them because they are fake. It was a term I came up with a long time ago, and it's almost not tough enough. That's how bad it is, but hopefully they can change. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job once and for all. Once and for all. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man, woman, will be forgotten no longer. We're going to forget them no longer. I didn't forget them for 4 years, but then they forgot them. With your help, your love, and your vote, we will put America first. We will make America great again, greater than ever before. We can do that, greater than ever before. Thank you very much, Iowa, and God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.